Salam and welcome back to Somali Dispatch, SomaliDispatch.com. My name is Abdi Kadir Guled. Much has been said and written about what the Ethiopian conflict means for the Horn of African masses, specifically for Somalis in the region. Ahmed Esse Awad is a former diplomat and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Somalia, and he is here to give us his thoughts on that conflict. The former minister would also weigh in on the ongoing talks regarding the role of AMISOM and his political ambitions in the future. Salam and welcome to Somali Dispatch, Ambassador Ahmed Esse Awad. Thank you for your time today and for joining us and giving us your precious time. Thank you.
Welcome, Abdulkadir. It's an honor.
Ambassador, if you could start us off by giving us your assessment on the Ethiopian conflict and the deterioration of that situation would be great.
Yeah, the situation of Ethiopia is actually an unfortunate one, unnecessary. It seems to me that our region loves conflicts. Ethiopia was one of the politically stable countries in the region, but now it's facing a serious challenge of its security and stability, political stability, and the unity of its people. It's a serious one. It's one that could be avoided, but now that we are here, there is still an opportunity for Ethiopia to go, or the parties to the conflict in Ethiopia, to go into a serious dialogue and a way out of this situation, this conflict. There is an effort by a number of actors, mainly Kenya, the United States and the European Union, along with the AU, which are appointed an envoy to the Horn of Africa in the person of the former president of Nigeria, Obasanjo, are trying now to mediate. And it seems to me their effort is bearing fruits. It's not yet over, but there seems to be, for the first time, a willingness by Prime Minister Abiy and the leadership of the political leadership of the TPLF, willing to engage in a dialogue. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will reach an agreement, but at least they indicated openness to talk, which is an improvement on the situation a few weeks ago. Of course, there are impetus, there are reasons for that, mainly the military balance on the grounds have changed in favor of the TPLF, and I think the government and the Abiy are under pressure now militarily, politically, as well as the international community, which has been calling for a dialogue to settle this issue. So all these factors are conspiring to force the parties to negotiate and to talk, and hopefully that will address the conflict.
Right. Much has been said about the conflict and what it means in terms of the immediate fallout of what could happen if things don't go as well as you've predicted. Let's talk about what it means for Somalia outside of that. It would seem, Ethiopia being a federalist government, that that system might actually take a hit if it doesn't pan out, if the mediations and the dialogue don't pan out and Ethiopia goes, God forbid, the wayside, and you know, TPLF is rumored to want an autonomy of some sort. In that aspect, as you know, Somalis in Somalia are experimenting in this system, federalism. What do you think, what sort of a picture would that paint for Somalis and other neighboring countries who are dabbling into that system as well, in terms of dealing with grievances?
Yeah, so yeah, a number of important issues you have raised there. One is for Ethiopia, for the future of Ethiopia, for its you know, constitutional arrangement, the governance, the unit of its people. So that is one thing that we can discuss. And then there is the other issue that you raised, which is the implication is for the region, including Somalia. You touched upon the impact it will have on Somalia's constitutional making and federal system. Others would also point out the risk of insecurity and exodus of refugees and all of that. So there are a number of the challenges that could come out of if Ethiopia, you rightly said, God forbid it, we don't, I liked you using such expressions, because the people who think that if Ethiopia disintegrates or goes into a conflict, it will be a benefit for Somalia, which it is not, as you rightly characterized it. It is conflict, and violent conflict is dangerous to the concerned people, but also people in the neighborhood and outside. So we don't wish anyone ill or conflict, violent conflict, least of all Ethiopia, which is our neighbor. As far as the constitution making of Somalia is concerned and our federal system, we didn't get our lessons from Ethiopia anyway. There are a number of successful federal systems in the world. So if we have to draw lessons from those, we could draw from the successful ones and not the failed ones, although people who are opposed ideologically or for whatever reason to federalism, or even maybe not understanding what federalism is all about, may still use that as an example. But our federal system is the law of the country, and it has sustained us, I will argue, so far. Because federalism is what you make of it. You know, if you use it as a way of, decentralizing, taking the governance to the people, to the lowest, denominator of the society, then it may work for you. If on the other hand, it's just a slogan on the books, but not sincerely and to the letter implemented, then it could be a curse. In Ethiopia, the case has been that where federalism was on paper, but it has not been implemented accordingly, and therefore now many communities, many nationalities, including the Tigray region, which introduced ethnic federalism to Ethiopia, are now not happy with the way what panned out, or how federalism is implemented in Ethiopia. My understanding, and I'm a close follower, a student of the politics of the region, that there will be a revisit of the constitution of Ethiopia. One is the dust settles. If the conflict does not deteriorate and escalate into, Ethiopia falling apart or disintegrating, there will be, because there will be a revisit of the constitution of Ethiopia, the federal constitution of Ethiopia, because some groups, powerful groups, are not happy with the federal system. They have not been happy to start with, like the Amhara. The Tigray are now, after this conflict, they will not want to subject themselves anymore to a strong federal government that can harm them, as they are putting it. Of course, the Oromos, the Somalis, the southern peoples, they all have their own grievances. This is a new experiment. I mean, federalism in Ethiopia is a new thing. Our federalism is also a new thing. Even the societies that have been implementing federalism, like the United States and others, still debate where the powers are, how it should be. You're familiar with that discussion. So ours actually is a new experiment, and we can make it work. Ethiopia can make it work. Somalia can make it work. Or, since it's not like a Quran, we could, for an opportune time, we could revisit and maybe opt for another arrangement. This is, after all, a human artifact. Constitution and even the concept of state is something developed by human beings, human ingenuity to manage their affairs. It's not something that's that came from God, from Allah. So we could experiment with it. We could choose it the way that suits us. Ethiopia could do the same thing. So the issue is not the impact or how it will the Ethiopian constitution will come out. The most important thing is that the people of a particular geographical space, like Somalia, Ethiopia, people have to come to an agreement, a consensus on how they want to manage their affairs. That is true to Somalia, true to Ethiopia. But when there is conflict and violence and mistrust, then people tend to fight over, small details, and then to disregard the constitution, because the constitution is not anymore given or taken as a consensus document. So yeah, so these are challenges, as you have rightly put it, challenges for Ethiopia and for Somalia. But that is not, from my perspective, that's not the main task. Because the main task is for the conflict to stop, for people to talk, and people to come to consensus. And then whatever comes out of that consensus is what will work for a particular people, a particular state.
As we all know, you are a Minister of Foreign Affairs in the current Somali government. And one of the things that both Abiy Ahmed and President Farmajo were able to have was an understanding and a closeness. And with what's going on in Ethiopia right now, what does it mean for Somalia's current government?
Yeah. Well, whatever project or a vision that the leaders of the region were thinking of implementing is now on a full stop because of the conflict of Ethiopia. it is also not pursued now because while Ethiopia is embroiled in a conflict, Somalia is also in a transition, and it is a political system where elections have to take place. So the current government's time is up, as you know, and we are moving into an election season. So all these factors make the whatever arrangement that the regional leaders wanted to do puts them on the shelf for the time being. But I think the region have no choice but to come together and to cooperate. As you know, from the examples of many parts of the world, including parts in Africa like ECOWAS in West Africa, or SADC in the southern region of Africa, the regions of the states, member states of that region cooperate very closely and are better off as a result. So ECOWAS region and SADC region are far ahead in terms of their development, in terms of the internal cooperation of these countries, in terms of the movement of their people, their livelihood, much better than the other parts of Africa, the other three regions, i.e. the central region, the northern region, and the Horn of Africa, or the eastern region, where conflict is still prevail. Now, cooperation is the way. You can use also other examples: the European Union, the NAFTA, or the North American cooperation. You and I know, as Canadians, that Mexico was the poor cousin of America and Canada. But at one point, the Americans and the Canadians decided that they could not afford to have a poor cousin in the neighborhood. So they opened up economy opportunities to Mexico, and Mexico's living standard is now much higher than it has been before NAFTA. The European Union brought up their poor cousins, in the southern regions of Europe. Portugal, Spain are now doing much better. They're almost the same living standard as the countries in the north. So the Gulf countries, so it makes sense that the countries of the same region cooperate. That doesn't necessarily mean countries lose their sovereignty, lose their
and not to cut you off, but you're 100% right, and that one could actually read between the lines in what you're saying in regards to the controversial regional integration that Somalia and Ethiopian governments proposed with Eritrea. To that end, the controversy being Somalia is losing its independence and sovereignty if they joined up with that. What was, perhaps you can continue with your thought in the values of having that integration, since IGAD is not built for that reason, right? We need perhaps another body that could, bring about the financial changes that you're talking about.
Yeah. So a few things to reflect. And first of all, I was answering your question and telling you that there was never an idea of integration. There was an idea of economic cooperation, but not integration. People use such words loosely and throw around. Concept is in their minds, but there was never a proposal or a plan of integration between Somalia, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. And by the way, the regional cooperation was supposed to cover the whole region and to bring Djibouti, Sudan. The discussion was at one point whether what's known as the north of IGAD, i.e. Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, and Sudan, to have a close cooperation, or whether we expand that to the whole region of the Horn of Africa, including Uganda, South Sudan, and Kenya. From the perspective of Somalia, our neighboring countries of Kenya, Ethiopia, and Djibouti have to be are a priority for us in terms of our economic cooperation, and that is economic cooperation. That agenda is what I was explaining will serve us better. However, at this particular juncture, we cannot pursue it because Ethiopia is embroiled in conflict. Eritrea, of course, is the odd. I don't think Eritrea. By the way, the cooperation did not
start with
progress because of Ethiopia, because of Eritrea's political situation. Eritrea is an odd kind of element in the region, but this could be revisited later when the Somali election finishes, and when and if Djibouti, Ethiopia manages its situation better than it is doing now. But right now, that discussion is not on the table, is on the shelves. Yeah, but I was trying to look forward into the future and suggest that there is nothing wrong with the region, either in smaller groups like Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, having close cooperation, or whether you expand it to the region of Horn of Africa or East Africa, like the case in West Africa, where you include Sudan, Uganda, South Sudan, even Tanzania, so that is for the future to consider.
Right. It's also refreshing, Minister, to hear you stay on the course of valuing and highlighting and underlining the value of dialogue in the conflict. In your last days, it was reportedly, said that your call or your minister's call to basically have that dialogue and have that vision of dialogue among warring Ethiopian was a good policy. Some have reported with that statement might have caused a rift between you and the president, or perhaps between Somalia and Ethiopia. You may or may not want to respond to that, but as a comment, and if I may editorialize here, it's refreshing to see that everyone is coming around to that thought. Would you say that?
Well, I agree with you, the part where you say that people are realizing that dialogue is the key to all conflicts, whether it's in Somalia, in Ethiopia, or any part of the region. Conflict never and a violent one never solves a problem. The world has no. Yeah.
Right. If we move on to talk about AMISOM and its role in Somalia, as you are very well immersed, that mandate is reportedly is coming to an end on December 31st of this year, and there has been an ongoing talks, and there seems to be a bit of a tug of war between Somalia and how it sees the future of securing security in the country and what the African Union and perhaps the UN are proposing. What are your top line takeaways in that discussion, since you were fully immersed in that as in your capacity as a minister?
Yeah. So in answer to that question, I will mention a caveat where and acknowledge my bias. I am someone who worked for the UN in peacekeeping missions in Sudan, 2 peacekeeping missions. One that was purely a UN mission before the Sudan split into Sudan and South Sudan. And then the first of its kind, that was a hybrid mission where the UN and the AU came together. It was known as UNAMID, or United Nations African Union peacekeeping mission in Darfur. And having also served as a minister for foreign affairs and knowing the impact or the efficacy of AMISOM in Somalia, I would welcome, if I were to advise my government, I would have advised that we accept the UN AU proposal for AMISOM to become a hybrid mission for a number of reasons. The AMISOM was already facing a challenge because AMISOM's budget operations are paid by the European Union. It's not paid by the AU. AU provides the forces for the member countries of Africa, 5 of them, as you know: Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Djibouti, and Burundi contribute forces to Somalia, peacekeeping forces, or forces to help Somalia overcome the challenge of Al-Shabaab, or challenge of terrorism. But now, if you, so therefore there was a challenge of whether the European Union will want it to continue paying for AMISOM after 10 years. They wanted AMISOM to be more effective than it has been, and so that we don't get it wrong, AMISOM was useful to Somalia. It helped it, fight Al-Shabaab. It had a lot of positives. Like any other human action, it had its own shortcomings and challenges. So if it becomes now a UN operation, a hybrid UN-AU operation, first of all, its budget will become, how do you say, a very stable one. When AMISOM was facing the last couple of years questions on who will pay the budget, the European Union were hesitating. So even from that perspective, but also when the UN comes in the picture, not only the budget question or challenge, uncertainties will be addressed, but also UN has experience of peacekeeping operations, much longer and bigger and faster than the AU. So that experience will serve Somalia and better. Of course, it all depends also the mandate and how the host country, how much the host country contributes to the new mandate. In our case, I think because of our shaky political and security-wise, and how our people are still divided, we are not on a strong position to dictate to anyone of how this thing. But at the end of the day, a hybrid will from my experience and my expectation, and I hope I'm right, it will add positive dimensions to already a useful operation that AMISOM was. I mean, don't believe when people criticize AMISOM, the people who do not know the inner workings of AMISOM and what AMISOM has so far done. They could have done better, of course, and that could be said about all of us. We could have done better than we have done so far. But AMISOM was useful to Somalia, and now, if we accept it, and I think we have no choice but to, because Security Council, after all, can decide to send. I mean, it's out of courtesy for them to consult us. Mm-hmm. But in our situation, political and security situation now, we cannot actually dictate to
right. My question to you is, when having these talks, what would you say, and like you said, what would you advise if the government is listening in terms of bringing along the training and the equipment and preparing of Somali security services, bringing them along that at one day, sooner rather than later, they're able to take over for their counterparts in AMISOM?
Yeah, it's a very good an important question, and that is the key question. So, but luckily, fortunately, the international community, the UN, the AU, European Union, all of them also would want Somalia to be to assume, the responsibility of its security and what have you, development, political progress. So it's up to us. This is more of a challenge to us than to others. But they are ready to assist us in that direction. So it is already you're talking to the convert when you tell the UN and the European Union and the AU that you need Somali forces to be trained, to be equipped, to be empowered. They may want to sometimes to do that. They may want Somalis to speak one language. So what the international community would ask us is, you give us a plan. And they've been doing that, they've been saying that, where you want the regions and the federal government to work together. What always hindered this plan to come to fruition was that political infight, political disagreements between the key actors, the political actors in Somalia. And then we have to be able to present a practical, realistic plan of how you want it to, as a sovereign country, you want it to, your forces, your security forces to be assisted or to be supported.
Right.
And that includes the doctrine, that includes the whole gamut, and the democratization process also. Your security forces have to be under a civilian leadership, are one of the conditions that the European Union and the Americans will put on us. And these are, we don't have to resist this. This will work for us. We will have a professional security forces, police, military that are accountable to the Somali people rather than the case has been in many parties in Africa, including Somalia in the past. So we first have to speak in one voice as Somalis, Somali political leaders. We have to agree on the construction of our new security forces that we wanted the world to help us. And then in one voice, of course, through the federal government to say, we want, these are the priorities. This is what we will do, as Somalis, and this is where we want you to help us with, in training, in equipment, in paying the salaries and all of that. I think the world is open to that. From my experience, the world has been open to that for a long time, but we were not able to articulate, I think, the requirement is now of the world to support us. Now, I will conclude by saying on this point that it doesn't help us to be to always say the world is wrong and we are right. That didn't help us. Sometimes when we need help and support, we don't have the capacity. First of all, if we were a sovereign country, fully sovereign country, and we could take care of our affairs, then UN would not have come to us, AU would not have come to us.
In fact, we would be going to other countries and helping them.
Everyone to help us, yes, that's right. And but we are the UN is there, the AU is there because of where we are and because of our situation. So we have to be very modest in our engagements with the world and say, this is what we wanted to do. And of course, we are required also of accountability. If we are supported, we have to be accountable for the whatever support that are given to us, but we have also to be accountable to our people as a government or different level of administrations, whether it's at the regional level or the federal level. Yeah.
Right. I would conclude by getting to a more personal questions to you. As you pointed out rightfully, you and I are both Canadians, and we do as much as we can in the world to take our experiences and give back, if you will. You've been, an ambassador, a diplomat, a minister. There seems to be a trajectory that people are talking about for you. I don't know if you and your family have talked about this or discussed. This has to do with your next steps in your political life. As you are multifaceted, I think there might be a need with your knowledge and accomplishments to give back to a region of Somalia called Puntland, which I believe that you hail from and could use your expertise in. They have a current president that has few years. Have you or your family discussed your next political, adventures? Is there anything on the horizon that you can share with us here today?
Yeah, well, Abdulkadir, thank you very much. I'm flattered by your, your kind thoughts with me. But to be frank with you, and our people are not. They don't favor people, talking the truth. The understanding of politics in Somalia is that a politician is someone who lies, who cheats, who, yeah. So, but my understanding of politics is a means to improve the situation of your people, So, and my training is in political science, political theory, and peace and conflict studies. So as much as I can contribute to my site, and it has been an honor for me to serve my people in different capacities as chief of staff of the Prime Minister's office, as an active member for a number of peace conferences in Djibouti and in Baghdad, in Kenya. And later as an ambassador to Washington, D.C., where I reopened the Somali embassy after 24 years of closure, and Somali being absent from Washington, and then serving as a minister of foreign affairs. I'm honored to and privileged to get such an opportunity, and I wouldn't mind to contribute to my people, to my society, to serve them. That's the only thing I'm open to, but I'm not campaigning for a political position. I'm not running for it. People keep asking me questions, so I'm not a candidate for a member of parliament. I'm not a candidate for president, either in Somalia or in a part of Somalia. And by the way, I grew up in, these days, the civil war has made us,
yes,
put us in a boxes.
Yes, I wholeheartedly apologize in pigeonholing you.
I'm a Mogadishu boy. I grew up in Mogadishu all my life. I knew more about
the only reason I pigeonholed you in that Puntland part was you haven't put your name in the hat.
No. It was
for Somalia.
A fair question. And by the way, it's not. I'm not belittling service in any part of Somalia. So even if I have an opportunity to serve my people in Puntland, or for that matter in Somaliland or in Jubaland, or it will still be an honor. Me, I see my people as my people, not in a small regional sense. Nothing, to serve in Puntland is an honor. To serve for all the Somalis is an honor. But right now, I'm not there. I'm not campaigning for a position.
Right. Right. Hence, you turned down that ambassadorship position as well soon after you've left the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I needed a break.
Yes, much needed break, and I understand the type of work you just described and the toll it takes on personal and family life. We appreciate and are grateful for your input in all of your endeavors, be they political or non-political. And I should add that there's so many other ways than political to contribute towards your society, be they Canadian or Somali. So we appreciate your time tonight, and I feel like I've known you forever and we could talk forever, but perhaps another time and date and subject we should continue our discussions. I appreciate you indulging us and giving us your insightful words.
It's an honor. And anytime, please. And I would also, if you allow me to also, at the risk of embarrassing you, that your program seems to be, even though this is the first time you and I meet, face to face via, of course, cyber Zoom. Your program seems to be unique because I engage many Somali media people, and I'm not flattering if I tell you that the type of questions you are asking, the type of discussion that we are having is a very encouraging one. It's more intellectual, it's more friendly and responsible, even though the questions were no less probing. So I think it's to your credit that you avail this opportunity for our people to engage in conversation that's useful.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your observation and your kind words. Thank you, and have a great night. Until next time, take good care.
Thank you.